What's up, guys? White Sox Daily back again with some more White Sox news. I'm Aaron Feely once more, and we start things off with the big one. After yesterday's kind of a big scare there for the White Sox, as Kyle Teel looked to come up a bit gimpy, a bit limp, rounding first base, trying to leg out a double in that World Baseball Classic game, in which he and about 8 other Italian-American individuals pretending to be full-blown Italians ended up beating Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. Gave us a bit of a scare with that victory over Team USA, though then ended up pummeling on Team Mexico. So USA still alive in this thing, but regardless, Kyle Teel could not finish that game, had to be helped off the field. We now have an official update on the injury, and it does look like it's going to be at least a little bit costly for the White Sox. Now, not as maybe apocalyptic here as some of us may have feared. Anything non-contact rounding the bases to the lower body, usually not fantastic, but it looks like he will miss a little bit of time here. Right hamstring sprain puts him out for approximately 4 to 6 weeks. Strain, I should say, sorry. So you're probably looking at a return something in the general vicinity of 1 to 3 weeks into the regular season, which does partially solve one of the White Sox big roster building issues early on, just doing it in the worst imaginable way, as that means that we will go into the regular season with the tandem of Corey Lee and Edgar Caro, you'd imagine, as the two catchers. So, hey, problem solved. It just so happens to be the problem is solved by knocking out the best player at the position. But at the very least, it's not more substantial than that. There were some fears that this could potentially knock him out for multiple months, maybe even the whole season, if it was truly something catastrophic like that. Doesn't look like it's going to be, though. Just a strain on the right hamstring, not believed to going to be more than about a month and a half of time missed. Unfortunately, that does just so happen to eat into the regular season just a tad. But perhaps bullet dodged, perhaps a big, jolt of negative energy for you, depending on what your expectations were. When you saw the injury, for me personally, I thought it was going to be a little bit worse. So, you know what? We'll take the win. Still sucks a little bit that he'll miss any time at all, but you got to take what you can take when you got a guy rounding first base and suddenly can't walk himself to his own dugout. One of the positive bits of note, though, for the White Sox, one of their big signings during the offseason, Austin Hayes, has continued to look extremely hot through spring training. Another home run today adds to his total for spring training, gives him 3 now. Across, I believe it's like roughly 30 at-bats. He's hitting one every 10 at-bats at the moment. Austin Hayes has been a monster through spring training. Hopefully he keeps that going through the regular season, because Austin Hayes expected to be a huge part of this White Sox team. He's one of the guys that we were kind of keeping our eye on through free agency, through the offseason, through that whole period there, to fill a big substantial need for the Chicago White Sox. In the outfield, it's the weakest position by far on the team after the departure of Luis Robert. Andrew Benintendi, now I still hate this, expected to platoon at DH quite a bit, which means probably going to see a multitude of guys from Everson Pereira, who did manage to get himself his first hit of spring training on an infield single that he legged out, hitting it to third base. So good for Pereira. You got Kelenic playing decently. You got a couple of guys that could maybe fight for some playing time out there. Baldwin still doing well. Hill looking fairly decent to this point. Would they take a swing at maybe letting Braden Montgomery onto the roster this early? I'm not so sure about it, but, could be something. The one guy that we do expect you can just pencil in, all right, fine, there you go. There's an everyday player. Austin Hayes has looked good. He's hitting .310 to this point through spring training. Hasn't struck out all that much. He's a guy he's been getting on base to this point. And he's, as we already mentioned, with the 3 home runs. That's really big for the White Sox, who had absolutely just a high shortage of power, particularly from their outfielders last season. They were not a team that was hitting too many of those. Right now, through spring training, they're looking like they've got some home run hitters throughout this lineup, and Austin Hayes, a big-time contributor to it. Another way, though, to get on base, we've talked about him quite a bit recently because another guy that has just been having a spectacular spring training to this point. Yahoo Sports dug up an interesting fact on Sam Antinachi that we're going to have to focus in on here. You wouldn't even really bring it up because it's primarily thought of as really just a luck stat, maybe borderline a bad luck stat, if it wasn't for the fact that he's done it now 3 years in a row, which is very odd. At Coastal Carolina, Sam managed to get himself hit 27 times in just 61 games, hit by a pitch, through that final season where he was there in college. In high school, his senior year, he was hit 40 times by a pitch his senior season of high school. And in his first professional season of baseball, Sam Antinachi played in 116 games in Double-A, and he was hit by pitch 35 times. To put that into a bit of perspective, at the major league level, it's only ever happened twice that a player was hit by a pitch 35 times in a single season. The most recent one was Don Baylor in 1986, playing for the Boston Red Sox. The all-time record back in 1971 for the Montreal Expos, Ron Hunt was hit 50 times in one season by pitch. But both of those guys played a full season. Baylor credited for 160 games in 86. And Hunt played in 152. Antinachi only played in 116 as a minor leaguer last year in Double-A, hit 35 times with a pitch, and as we already mentioned, third time he has been hit by a ridiculous number of pitches in the same season. It really helps crank his OPS out there, really helps crank his on-base percentage up there, and yes, it seems like it's just kind of a fluky thing, coincidence, whatever. Not something that would normally be considered a skill to be able to, anger pitchers enough to just draw the baseball to you. Maybe he's got some sort of ball magnet that he keeps in his back pocket. I don't know what he's doing to continuously manage to do this. But a coincidence is only a coincidence so many times. Once it happens 3 times in a row, suddenly you're just going to have to start maybe thinking that some sort of weird nonsense is at play. Maybe he is the greatest lean-inner without getting caught we've ever witnessed in the history of baseball. I don't know. All I know is that he's somehow managed to accomplish this feat 3 different times in his lifetime. Once at each of the last 3 levels, high school, college, and minor league baseball. Let's see if we can bring it up to the pros. Let's see if we can get Sam Antinachi absolutely painted by baseballs this season. And when they actually throw him over the plate, let's hope he keeps that hot bat going that he's been bringing to spring training and the World Baseball Classic. Really been rolling for Team Italy, by the way. Had a bit of a slow game yesterday against Mexico. Did go 0 for 4, but he did manage to draw a walk. It was not hit by pitch, I don't believe. We can double check that real fast. But he did manage to get on base one time despite the 0 for 4 stat line. And then he came around to score. It was a heck of a game for Antinachi. As we'll take a look here at, in the 7th inning was hit by pitch. What do you know? What an absolutely insane career he is having. We'll hope to keep that rolling, I guess. Any way to get on base you can, especially a guy with his speed. He can steal bags. And once he's on base, it's really hard to get him off. He's a guy that has, throughout spring training to this point, been coming around to score quite a bit. Another guy that is impressed through spring training that will cap off our daily news for you here, a guy I was fairly harsh on when we acquired him because I just did not think that it was worth anything whatsoever as an acquisition in the Luis Robert trade. But Luisangel Acuna playing extremely well through spring training, actually, and I know, again, they're just practice games. They don't count, what have you. But it's nice to see him stepping up in a big way when there was quite a bit of skepticism surrounding the acquisition, and a big majority of it coming from me here on this channel as well. But to this point, hitting 429 across 21 plate appearances. He does have a home run. He's stealing bases out there. He's rolling. He's having a great time. He's got a couple of those. He's showing off the speed defensively, showing off just a great deal of versatile skill sets, which are going to be important for the White Sox, and especially for him considering the trade that he's always going to be tied to. For the rest of his White Sox tenure, he's always going to be the guy we got in return for Luis Robert. It's unfortunate. He's stuck with it. For the rest of time here in Chicago, he's stuck with it. And so he's going to need to continue to put up numbers like that, not necessarily, hitting 429 all the time, but he's going to have to continue to be a really solid ball player, because Luis Robert was a massive acquisition when the White Sox signed him. He was a huge, huge ball of potential for Chicago, even going forward. Even now, in his veteran status, he still had so much potential to him. Theoretically, plenty of years left to give in his prime as well. But if Acuna can continue to hit the baseball well, steal bags, and play defense the way he has to this point, maybe it can still be worth it. But that'll do it for today's episode of White Sox Daily. I've been Aaron Feely. If you liked the video, like, share, and subscribe down below. Let us know how you feel about Kyle Teel's timeline right now, 4 to 6 weeks. Was that more or less than you expected it to be? And do you think Acuna is going to find himself a significant playing role on this team come regular season time? Let us know in the comments section below. We'll see you guys tomorrow.